The Miss Caribbean USA Summer Body Pageant Committee invites you and yours to New York's hottest summer fashion event. It's the Miss Caribbean USA Summer Body Pageant 2023. One night, one spacious and gorgeous location, 6 nations: Miss Grenada, Miss Panama, Miss Haiti, Miss Dominican Republic, Miss Guyana, and Miss Jamaica. Get your $40 early bird tickets on or before May 8th at eventbrite.com. Advance tickets cost $50 or you pay more at the door. Elegance, intelligence, poise, and beauty unbound. And performing live from Jamaica, DeVille.
I'm thinking about you.
Passionately memorable, DeVille.
Baby, I'm sorry for praying.
Along with New York's finest, including the Hitman, Inspector. Dose of Nut 4 p.m., showtime 6 p.m. Be seated early at the J-Loft, 1055 East 45th Street, Brooklyn, New York. For more info, contact 754-301-1230 or email summerbodyinfo@gmail.com. Miss Caribbean USA Summer Body Pageant 2023, Sunday, 25th June. It's going to be epic.
Wine the Caribbean girl.
Yeah. Welcome all. It's Right Along Live for today. It is Thursday. Yes, Thursday. Welcome to the ride. As you guys come and go ahead and share up the thing right now. Today, guys, listen. We have an interesting conversation, getting to know someone that I think is an icon in politics, and he has so much information, historical information to talk about, right? I believe. I mean, I've heard about Mr. Kenny Lalsingh. I'm sure you did as well, as a parliamentarian in Grenada, serving St. Patrick East for 3 terms, both with the NNP and the NDC. And there's so much information of things that's happening now that he could bring light to. In addition, guys, you know, on Thursday is about what's pissing you off. And there are many things that's happening today that I want to get Mr. Kenny Lalsingh perspective on. So a lot to discuss, a lot to chat about. Good evening to you, Alice. Thank you. Yes. All right. But before we go on, guys, Shirley, big up yourself. Benjamin, thank you so much. Kathleen, Jennifer, Selvia, Shirley Ann, everybody. Let me know after you share. After you share, all you have to do is say, I share. And we give Mr. Kenny Lalsingh a nice and friendly ride-along introduction. Yes. And thank you so much. Guys, also, before I go on, let me tell you, I want to say thank you to everyone who supported the venture that we started with Janice Augustine. Yesterday, Janice was on sharing her story, her update on what's happening. Well, guys, let me fix my audio. I think my audio, there we go. Right. Okay. You guys should be hearing me better now. Yes. So yesterday we had Janice on the program, and Janice shared her story, what transpired with her life after cancer. Because of Janice's story and the overwhelming support, we decided to partner with her to bring forth something much bigger. That's all right. So what we're going to be doing in November, I want you guys to mark that date. In November, we are going to be having a cancer walk. And the goal of that cancer walk will be to support young women and young men as well going through this horrible disease, living through this horrible disease, but don't have sufficient finances to support, right? So that's what we're going to be doing in November. I want you guys to mark that date. We're going to continue telling you about it, but it's a big cancer walk. We're looking to have that in Grenada, all inspired by Janice. Okay? Thank you, Andy, Lucy, everybody. Thank you so much. All right, guys. So I want to waste no time, right? I want to waste no time whatsoever. Again, I want to introduce to you uh, a very prominent figure in Grenadian politics. His name is Mr. Kenny Lalsingh. We're going to get to know Mr. Kenny Lalsingh about his politics and find out what's pissing him off. Mr. Lalsingh, welcome to the ride. How are you doing, sir?
Good afternoon to you and your many listeners. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Mr. Lal Singh. As I said, Mr. Lal Singh, this is a more getting to know you. This is a more getting to know Mr. Kenny Lal Singh, because I, growing up, I've always heard the name Kenny Lal Singh. To me, you've always been a figure and some part of politics in Grenada. So I think it's very necessary that we get your insight on the history of politics in Grenada. In addition, on the backdrop of as to what's happening right now. But first, Mr. Kenny Lalsingh, you had a long, career in politics, 1984 to 1999 as the MP of St. Patrick East. Tell us about Mr. Kenny Lalsingh and your introduction into politics.
There's a slight correction. It was St. Patrick West.
St. Patrick West, sorry, St. Patrick West.
Not St. Patrick East.
Yes.
But I got involved in the politics after the intervention, as I helped created the NNP. There was a number of parties came together, and there was probably the youngest person there on the steering committee of the NNP, headed by the late Hubbard Blaze. So we created the NNP. I didn't have any experience in politics, except my 2 years and 10 days imprisonment under the PRG.
Yes.
And of course, while I was there, we talked a lot of politics. So I guess this is how I eventually became a politician. It started from imprisonment. And of course, I came out after 2 years and 10 and restarted my business. And of course, after the intervention, I was pulled into the political arena. And eventually, I ran for the NNP for St. Patrick West and won the seat. And then became a parliamentary secretary for Mr. Late Hubbard Blaze.
When you said founded, or being a part of the foundation of the NNP, who are the other members, or who are the other people that were part of the formulation and the foundation of that political party?
Well, it was a GNP headed by Hubbard Blaze. The Democratic Party headed by George Brizan. And Francis Alexis had his own party. And of course, Dr. Mitchell was with Francis Alexis.
Right.
And these three organizations came. Oh, there was a fourth one. Winston White had a small party. So there were four parties that came together and created the NNP and eventually won the elections. So all of the politicians at the time ran against Sir Eric Gary and his PULP. The NNP won 14 seats. The lone winner was Marcel Peters, who then became the leader of the opposition in 1984.
What were the founding principles of the NNP at that time?
Well, basically, was to put in place a government that will help develop the country. Having come from a history of 4.5 years of revolutionary system of government, something that I didn't like, I didn't believe in, but it is part of our history. And the revolution having collapsed because of the internal fighting between the factions, Grenada needed leadership. And so the NNP, having won the election, took on the mantle of leadership to help develop the country and its people.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, while we had the revolutionary government in place, the other islands in the Caribbean were prospering. They were doing better than Grenada.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting all the financial help that they needed.
Right.
Because Grenada was only getting financial help from the Eastern Bloc, the Cubans, the Russians, and so forth. So I think we lost out a lot. And it was hoped that the new National Party would have put in place a plan how to develop the country.
What role in the foundation, the formulation, the former Prime Minister, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, played at that time?
The former Prime Minister, Dr. Mitchell, he was a member of the steering committee of the NNP. And well, all of us were new to politics, but all of us played our role in the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, after winning, the Prime Minister at the time made him the Minister of Communication and Works. And Mr. Blaze had a very strange style.
Yeah.
He then told the ministers, there were what, 6, 7 of them?
Uh-huh.
He told them, look, the other guys remaining, and ladies, pick one of them to help you. So he did not put us in any position.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Mitchell there and then, he came to me and he said, look, I want you to be my parliamentary secretary. And I said, sure. I got involved in this thing to help Grenada, and I will. So I became the parliamentary secretary for Ministry of Communication and Works under the minister, Dr. Keith Mitchell.
Right.
So all the other ministers handpicked the other people who were there, Grace Duncan, Andrews, Alan Walker, they were all picked for a ministry to help the minister. That was the style of Howard Blaze.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more about that, because growing up, I remember Howard Blaze as I remember him when he was in his wheelchair. That's the only time I remember him. At one point in time, we had turn on the light ceremony in Union, and I remember Howard Blaze coming there, and all I remember him was him being in a wheelchair. What was his what was his mantra of leadership? You know, what did he stand strong for as a leader?
I think he stood for probably democracy. He also stood for managing the monies collected. But I think he wasn't able to understand running government as a business.
Uh-huh.
Yes, he might look at a project or two, but I think the dynamism really invest Grenada's money and keep a pace with the changes in the world, how you can develop every aspect of the country.
Right.
I don't think he had that. I think that thing that left him behind. So his thing was to collect money, spend money. Collect, spend, pay the bills, maintain the roads, do the buildings. But in terms of true development, I don't think he had it in him.
Mm. How did now the transition of leadership from then Herbert Blaze to Dr. Keith Mitchell? What was the process of that transition? How did that work out?
But what happened in just before the election of 1990, Dr. Mitchell was able to take the party NNP away from Mr. Blaze. At that particular convention, Dr. Mitchell, being very shrewd, he organized the delegates to vote for him. Now, Mr. Blaze never expected that.
Mm.
He never expected because I remember former Prime Minister saying he will be a house slave to Mr. Blaze all the time, anytime. That was his position.
Hmm.
He's prepared to play the part of a house slave. Of course, he had his mission.
Hmm.
His thing was to get leadership. By doing what he did, he was able to push many people out of the party. I left early, and then Brizan, Alexis, and Tillman Thomas left. Of course, the less people within make Mr. Blaze more vulnerable.
Hmm.
And so it gives the present leader ample time to organize and to wrest control of the party from Mr. Blaze. And that's what he did in 1989, I think it was. But of course, by then, in 1987, we had formed the National Democratic Congress,
Yes.
headed by George Brizan at first. I was the chairman of the party. Brizan was the leader. Alexis was the deputy. And then later on, we made some changes and we brought Mr. Braffett, who then became the leader
Hmm.
of the NDC. And Brizan and Alexis became the two deputies. But I remained the chairman of the party.
I see. At what point did TNP come in?
TNP came in when the present leader of the NNP
Yes.
wrest control of the party. Mr. Blaze then fight back, and he fired him.
So
He fired him.
he fired Dr. Keith Mitchell.
He fired him from the cabinet.
Oh,
Fired him,
okay.
and he kept a government that, well, it was not a majority anymore
Hmm.
because they had a very slim majority. So Mr. Blaze then created TNP.
Right.
It was a minority government, but he had to disassociate himself from NNP and his present leadership.
Hmm.
And by doing so, he formed TNP and kept a number of people like the late Ben Jones, Arlen Walker, and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say that the party was, I think you did say it was in a way stolen or taken away from Blaze? Would you use those
But
terms?
Mr. Blaze didn't expect that
Uh-huh.
because the present leader was his Israel Blue Eye boy, you know, and he didn't expect him to do that. It was secretly done.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't think he discussed it with him. But of course, that's democracy. If Mr. Blaine want to sit there and be naive in thinking that he'll be propped up all the time, then he lost it. And that was a problem with him. He didn't understand the reality of politics in this modern time.
Hmm.
Because from the time he was chief minister and premier,
Hmm.
he was premier in 1967, and he lost to Sir Eric Gary. It was a long time from then to 1984. And he has not been able to keep abreast with the change in times, what is happening in the world. So he lost out.
Hmm.
And so the leadership was taken away from him.
He
And
was
of course,
naive. He was naive. He was being somewhat naive.
he
And
was.
Dr. Keith Mitchell definitely had political or leadership aspiration. Back in that time, he wanted to be prime minister. That
Well, everybody who get involved, people should always aspire to leadership,
right.
in every aspect of people's life. You should always see how you can rise to the top. Of course, you must do it democratically. You can't blame Dr. Mitchell for what he did. He did it democratically.
Right.
It is just that Mr. Blaze was naive.
Yeah, yeah. Guys, we're learning, getting a history lesson here because not every day we get a chat with Mr. Kenny Lalsingh. So it's important we understand the history of politics in Grenada because it speaks to a lot of what's happening now. And unless you don't know your past, you fail. You fail because you will never understand the future. So it's good, and I'm happy Mr. Kenny Lalsingh is here to share those information with us, connect some of the dots. As you will. What about your aspiration? Have you at any point, had the idea or aspiration, leadership aspiration, prime minister ship aspiration?
I never really had that kind of aspiration, because there is a culture in the world that you must be highly educated, and I'm not educated. I'm self-taught. So I'm a very humble person.
Mm-hmm.
I know about working and getting things done.
Right.
So as a minister, as an MP, my motive is to make a difference in people's lives,
Right.
get the work done, whether I'm a minister or an MP. So I never look towards leadership in any way.
Right.
It was not my call.
Tell us about the political climate back then, right? The tribalism that we see now, was it the same sort of tribal type politics where people are, you're one side or the other, and if you're not on the other side, then the left side is the worst, and that type of fighting, was that the same type of politics that existed back in the 80s, 90s?
It was even worse.
Really?
I remember going out with the GNP, and the GLP will stone us. I remember I was on the bus, that was my bus, and we coming from a meeting in Victoria, and it was big stones, the high rocks in Victoria, and they were throwing stones at people coming from the meeting. So there were a lot of tribal, there were a lot of fighting. I remember in Sates one day, so Eric had a meeting in Sates, and the former MP, W. Eric Copeland, he was not an MP anymore. He was not active, and he was traveling through Sates. They stopped him and they beat him. The GLPites, they beat him. Even I think Tillman Thomas's father, Franco Thomas, he suffered there also from that passing through when that meeting was taking place. So there have always been that. These days, I think we have less war, but you would have the tribal kind of behavior where people would fight you because they believe in the party. So don't care what you say. This is what they believe. And they would do everything to defend the leader, the organization. But it was worse before. There was a lot of violence in the politics of GNP and GULP before the revolution. Of course, the revolution came and it escalated, where you had over 3,000 people being arrested and jailed without charge or trial. So we had to have that serious violence and tribalism in the past.
Tell us about and so when people talk about how it's bad now, you saying back then it was worse. It was physical. Wow. Okay. All right.
It was. As much I know, there were a lot of incidents. People end up in hospital. You know, a lot of chopping. It was. Today is far better
Mm-hmm.
politically than before. You
Let's
see, in politics,
yeah,
it depends on the leader. If the leader is dynamic and strong,
yeah.
he will get his way.
Mm-hmm.
And it has nothing to do with that leader. The problem is to do with the leaders who are weak.
Mm-hmm.
If you're weak, it's difficult for you to stand up to the challenge of the strong leader. We have seen it before with so Eric and Howard Blaze. Blaze was no match to Eric Gary, and we have seen it in recent times with the present leader of the GNNP and the NDC. Of course, every now and again, he will be taught a lesson. Like in 2008, he was beaten by a very weak leader.
Mm-hmm.
And then you came back in 2022, and he's beaten by a new kid on the block.
Mm-hmm.
So strange things happen in politics. You might be good as ever, but if you don't know when to give up, if you don't know when to change strategy,
Yeah.
then you'll get the message. Look,
Yeah.
you are not all that. You can be beaten.
And
And the
and
president was
it,
beaten twice.
it's strange that you said don't know when to give up, right? Because people said that it seemed that, especially in Grenadian politics, it's difficult for some of our leaders. Because I remember um, Prime Minister Blaise in a wheelchair, but he was still Prime Minister. He didn't give up. And did you always see that in Grenadian politics, that it's always hard to give up, like PJ Patterson of Jamaica? He resigned, like he just walked away from it. Was that always the mantra of Grenadian politics, with the leaders just sticking around and probably until they die as leader?
Well, so Eric had no intention of giving up. In 1972, so Eric won 13 of the seats. But by 1976, he lost 6 seats.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the new era of Maurice Bishop, they came in and they formed an alliance with Hubbard Blaze, Winston White, and so forth. And they were able to take 6 seats away from him.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely that he was losing control.
Mm-hmm.
But before that happened, I remember he was not even listening to his ministers.
Mm.
The late George Hostem was his Minister of Finance and Deputy Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the late George Hostem was a very practical man, was saying to Sir Eric, look, there's some things that we must change. And he never listened. Instead, he demoted him
Mm-hmm.
and he promoted Mr. Hubbard Prudhomme as his deputy. And the Senator Winston White, who was a member of the cabinet then, but he didn't win his seat, he was fired
Mm.
because George Hostem and Winston, these people were trying to put some modern sense into Sir Eric's head. And he didn't want to hear that. He didn't. As far as he's concerned, I came from nowhere. I built a union, I built a party, I became prime minister, bring the country to independence. So, who are you guys to come telling me what to do? So, he demanded his way until eventually he was overthrown in 1979. So, it will always be every part of the world. If you get a leader who do not respect um, democracy, it will happen.
Mm-hmm.
The only country I have seen is the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
There is an election, you lost, the leader resigned immediately. That's the only country that we see this happening.
Right.
Outside of it, every leader is trying to hold on,
Yeah.
similar to what is happening in Grenada.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about your fallouts now, because there were one particular big fallout that was very public involving the cement issue. Tell us a little bit. Tell us about that. What transpired, and why did Dr. Keith Mitchell had to apologize to you?
See, when I was parliamentary secretary in 1984, 1985, I was putting a lot of energy into, and the roads were terrible. Things were very terrible in Grenada. And I was putting a lot of effort into community development, building drains, building roads. And whatever I would do, I would get the material from government. I would use my own truck, get the material to the people so that I could get the work done on Sundays or whatever evening. But because the present leader and myself was not seeing things eye to eye,
Mm-hmm.
he told Mr. Blaze a story that I was taking material and selling it. So when Mr. Blaze confronted me,
Mm-hmm.
I said, but there's no truth in that. I say, I have my business. I still kept my business. I don't sell what you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
material, cement and gravels and sand. I don't. Whatever I take, it goes on projects. And I guess I resigned as parliamentary secretary. And I said to him, please investigate, do a thorough investigation, and let the nation know. He did an investigation. He got the police to investigate. And the findings were that all material taken went on projects.
Mm.
Mr. Blaze could not even believe what he heard. He asked for another investigation,
Mm-hmm.
and he got the same result that all material taken went on projects. And they identified all the projects that I was. Because I was going from community to community, encouraging people, come out on a Sunday, let's concrete roads, build drain. And this is what I was doing. This has always been part of my political life. But of course, nothing came out of it. And eventually, I just resigned from the NNP. I took a very bold step. I resigned as a member of the NNP. And I went and sit in the opposition as an independent. So, I've gone through the roughest time. But because I did nothing wrong, I'm not afraid to move from one side to the next. But if I did something wrong, then I would be begging pardon. But if I did nothing wrong, I'm not going to beg any pardon. Of course, it was scandalous. It was horrible for my family. But I say to them, look, we got to stand up. I did nothing wrong. It is just petty jealousy.
Mm-hmm. Did moving to independent, because it's hard to be an independent candidate in Grenada. At what point did you then move across the aisle with the NDC?
But when I became it was just independent in the parliament.
Right.
At that time, late Marcel Peters was the leader of the opposition. So I eventually sat near to him. And I was giving my opinion as an independent. Sometimes I would agree with him, but I deal with my thing independently in parliament. And of course, I continue to help my constituency. Of course, Mr. Blaze and the present leader never gave me anything to work in my constituency. And they were so petty If they had a project in my constituency, they would not even invite me.
Mm.
I remember when they, I think it was in Monkridge, when they were turning on the lights in Monkridge. Because a lot of the country areas did not have electricity. They never even invited me. So this was the hardship some of us faced. But of course, by the following year, I think Francis St. Louis resigned.
Mm-hmm.
And then Francis Alexis George resigned. And Tillman Thomas, they all resigned en bloc. And they came over to the opposition bench. And of course, while we were there, we started talking. And we eventually formed the National Democratic Congress in 1987, created a party.
Hmm.
But we had many meetings before, many discussions, and we formed the NDC.
What was the as you did when you were part of the formulation of the NNP? What was the founding principles now of the NDC?
Well, it was similar. Huh? The thing about politics is about development.
Mm-hmm.
You want betterment for your country and its people. Because even all now, the policies of most parties, except your extreme left, but most parties, their principles are basically the same: to
Right.
develop your country and its people, to make life better for the people, to bring happiness, to educate your people so that they can develop themselves. It basically is the same. Having failed in NNP, then we were hoping to get it done in NSC.
Yeah.
But then we only had, when the NDC came in, we only had one term and didn't get a lot of things done. Because again, some fundamental mistakes were made and caused the NDC to lose the election in 1995.
What do you think was some of the fundamental mistakes?
Mr. Bradford, the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance at the time, reintroduced personal income tax
Uh-huh.
in an election year. And I was against it. I said, this is a mistake, this is an error. I told all the other guys, we should not support that. How can you reintroduce personal income tax in an election year? But they never listened to me. Well, of course, the present leader of the LNP used that as a campaign tool,
Hmm.
introducing personal income tax, want to take away money from the people. And that was his campaign. The other thing he used in 1995 also, he said that he will pay salaries fortnightly. I think it was in 1995, he says. These were the two major things that caused him to win the election in 1995. The mistake by the NDC, reintroducing personal income tax, because there was no personal income tax in Grenada during that 1984 up to 1995. There was no personal income tax.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a consumption tax across the board.
Right.
But when Mr. Bradford, the late Prime Minister, reintroduced personal income tax, that was a negative in the country and for the party. And that's why the NDC lost the election of 1995. And of course, the present leader added a number of promises that he never fulfilled. Like
Right.
the one about paying salary fortnightly.
Yeah.
He was the first person.
I want to go in
He
on
was the first person that spoke about paying salary fortnightly in 1995 elections.
And what was the
and he
reaction?
never did it.
What was the reaction by the people?
Well, it was a new idea. You see, he sold it well. So if I pay you every fortnight,
Right.
you would have a lot more monies in your hand. Um, People didn't understand what was going on, but he put forward good campaign tactics, and some people went for it.
So
And of
people,
course, he put it forward in a very good way, that he could do it and they can't do it. That's what he said about us. Unfortunately, he never do it. He also said that if he wins the election in 1995, he will remove the personal income tax. He said because this was never there. We don't need personal income tax. So my government will remove it. Will remove the legislation for personal income tax. And he never did it.
oh. So one, the fortnightly, which we could talk about in present context, and two, the personal income tax. But of course, I'm thinking people expecting this as a campaign promise. It didn't happen. Were there revolts and protests and people angry and anxious about that campaign promise?
Nobody protested. Usually in Grenada, people don't really protest easily. Um, he would probably carry on with um, with other things happening because he was able to do a number of concrete projects. NDC, as usual, always they left a lot of money there,
Mhm.
and he utilized the money. He spent 3.5 years. He did a lot of concrete projects, concrete roads, and that's another thing I was saying to my colleagues. Let's do some concrete roads, and they said, no, 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 we're not spending the money on that. But he came in and he utilized the money, do a lot of concrete roads for 3.5 years. This is why when the election was called in 1999, he won all the 15 seats.
Yeah. People said, someone said, protest what, Junior? Grenadian have short-term memory. And it's true. It's true. It's true.
It's
It's
quite,
a 2 weeks.
quite
It's a 2 weeks thing. They forget tomorrow. And
right,
able to go back in the archive and say, yes, you said it, and play back the tape. There was no YouTube and this type of mediums there where they could have confronted the truth like we have now. It's it's
right.
a little different. Um, at that particular time, what was the biggest issue that affected Grenadians?
There were many issues. You mean which period you're looking at? The 1995?
1995, yeah. So we're in that period, 1995, and we're going forward from there.
Well, Grenada was in a very difficult position. Our roads were terrible, right? When we came in 1984, a number of roads were done, but it was still very bad.
Mhm.
Um, yes, people were getting some scholarship to Cuba under the PRG, and of course, relationship broke away. So scholarships was not as it is now. So in terms of educating our people, there was a great need for more scholarships. There was a great need to develop new infrastructure. And a lot of these things were not happening as fast as they should. So there were definitely a lot of issues. Um, but people would sit back and feel contented, and they will talk.
Mhm.
But to really rise up, you would not even see that. I've seen that in Gary days, before the revolution, where the nurses had demonstration, as in the early 70s. In 1974, we had a lot of demonstration put on by Morris Bishop and Code and them.
Mm-hmm.
But then after that period, I don't think people wanted to go back to demonstrate anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think people got tired of it. And of course, the leadership was not pushing that for the people to demonstrate. But Grenada needed a lot of work to be done. Our agriculture was down, tourism was down. We needed to have a lot more money circulating in the country. So there was a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. Someone just sent me a message here, just to fall back a little bit on the issue of the bi-monthly payment. They're asking, why did the former prime minister, what reason did the former prime minister give for not implementing the bi-monthly payment?
I can't remember if he gave any reason. Maybe not a lot of people believed in it at the time. You know, you could have, in the campaign you would say something. It sounds good. A few people might vote for you because of it. But as time goes by, people tend to forget about it. It's like in 2018 election, the promise of oil and gas was a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very strong promise. Oil and gas is coming soon. We will have it. He never did, and people never bother because people have to see things for them to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in Trinidad, you would miss the oil and gas and the low prices because you knew how you benefited from it before.
Right.
In Grenada, we never had it. So, to a majority of people, it doesn't really matter. If you don't have something,
Mm-hmm.
you never know what it is when you have it or when you don't have it because you never had it.
True.
And so, if he did not implement the by monthly payment, people still thinking, is that real? Does it make sense? He never do it and they never bother. Yes, people used to pay income tax before, even in the PRG days, while Bishop was there. Of course, after the intervention, the NNP got this help from the US to remove personal income tax. So you put more disposable earning into the hands of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And that went on for a while until Mr. Bradford changed it. Now, people have seen paying tax one time, not paying tax one time, and they probably evaluate it's neither here nor there
Mm-hmm.
because the same personal income tax you were paying it in consumption tax.
Right.
So possibly a lot of people look at it, look, it doesn't make a difference. So even if he promised to remove it and he didn't, it was no big issue.
Right.
So a lot of time people evaluate things, but they're not seeing the major difference.
Different. Right. Yeah.
And of course they would drop the issue. And that is happening in a lot of cases. Sometimes you have discussion with people about a matter, but they're not seeing a major difference, whether it is implemented or it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And to them, it doesn't really matter. But of course, in an election, the promises you make can either make you win or lose.
Yeah.
And so the skillful politician understands that. And he takes issue with people on that.
Yeah. Do you think that Uncle Tillman Thomas, the leader of the NDC, going into an election period, do you think that he was a formidable opponent? Well, he won, of course, but then he lost his seat. Do you think he was a good leader?
I think probably that had been the worst period in Grenada.
Uh-huh.
I think when I speak to a number of uh, politicians around the Caribbean who interfaced with him, it was a laughable thing.
Mhm.
He was he just doesn't have it. Of course, the guys used him to win the election. It was a skillful thing by Peter David and Nazim to use him to win the election. But they were hoping that he would give it up soon. They did not know the man that they were dealing with. Once he gets it, there's no way he would relinquish that. But of course, his 10 years prime minister, I don't think helped Grenada. He didn't help.
Yeah.
And of course, when he came to the end of his time, he was having other internal problems. Prorogued parliament for over 6 months. There was a lot of wrangling in between. And the silly thing they did was to expel 10 members, expel 10 prominent members of his party, which was a foolish thing. If
Mhm.
a smart leader who shouldn't have taken sides, because the issue was not with him, the issue seemed to have been Nazim Bok and Peter David. A smart leader at the time would say, come on, guys, let's work together for the country. Stop fighting. Hold their hands
Mhm.
and bring them together. But he didn't do that. What did he do? He took sides
Mhm.
and he destroyed the party going into the election by expelling, I think it was 10 of them. On
Yeah.
the eve of election, you had problem with a vote of no confidence coming up. You prorogue parliament for so long, and then you're going to fire 10 prominent people on the eve of election. Obviously, he doesn't show political wisdom in
Was
doing that.
was it a mistake of him firing Peter David? And they were
Of course,
all
it was a mistake. Of course, it was a mistake. But of course, every time you make a mistake, somebody capitalizes.
right.
And of course, this was the worst economic period in Grenada. Worst economic period in Grenada, where Nazim had to sell all government properties to the NIS in order to pay salaries. You don't run a business like that. Anytime you have to sell um, assets to finance recurrent expenditure, it tells me that you don't know what you're about. You have to manage this country, find ways of collecting monies to meet your recurrent. But if you are going to sell, there's this whole about 15 properties at exorbitant price.
Mhm.
And that relinquished a lot of money that NIS had. But they had to do it in order to pay the public servants bills. So I think it was a very terrible period of economic management, and they all have to take the blame.
Mhm. And that empowered you. Do you think that empowered the NNP because they came in right after that, after the one term of the then NDC, and won two consecutive clean sweep?
Well, obviously, people would have seen the NNP in action from 1995 to 2008. You have seen them in action.
Mm-hmm.
And if these guys fail, when you do an assessment, it means that they're not capable. And obviously, you give the NNP the swing in order to win the election. Of course, at that time, I was very active with the NNP. I was the campaign manager.
Mm-hmm.
I was the campaign manager for NNP in that election.
Yeah.
And, and it was a very easy election to win because the guys failed miserably economically. They they did not know how to bring harmony within the party. They fought each other. So if you are fighting your own brothers and sisters, then what will you do with your enemy? You might want to kill them.
Right. Mark.
They say, charity begins at home. You must show us what you're doing at home in order for me to trust you on the outside.
Yeah. Martin is saying, Kenny, you forget that there was a recession during that time with Uncle Tilly. So he was coming up against a headwind, well, not a head, a massive storm. Did he get the
Yes,
sharp end of the stick because in fact there was a global recession?
there was a global recession, yes. But of course, when there's a global recession, you have to manage your finances. It can't be business as usual. They had a very huge cabinet. And one of the things I looked at what was going on, there was a lot of traveling taking place. When I looked at the budget expenditure was way higher than the previous government. They did not manage the money properly. So when there's a recession, it calls for tighter control. And they did not do it. So the Minister of Finance failed, and of course, the Prime Minister there at that time couldn't help it because he doesn't know much about finance. So yes, there was a recession, but that is the time that you need to find ways and means to manage what you do, cut losses, so that you can better spend the money that you have. But
Right.
if you want to say business as usual, obviously you will find yourself in a deep hole.
Right. You being the campaign manager of the NNP at this time, and then you said, well, this was a very easy election, a clean sweep, followed by a second clean sweep. Peter David, well, during that period, Peter David moving over from the NDC into the NNP, which you said that it was a mistake that he was expelled, strengthened the NNP. And then we see a reconstruction of the NNP from 2022. Did you ever think that the NDC, sorry, would have ever come back after such defeat?
I expected the NDC to come back. And again, it boils down to leadership.
Mm-hmm.
If you get the right leadership and you have the issues right, it was not hard to win. Obviously, the NNP leadership didn't realize that you are up against a party with a new leader. One. The NNP didn't realize that there was a lot of mistrust, and the people could not believe in what they were telling them. So mistrust on part of the NNP has been a positive for the NDC. And of course, the new leader promised to pay the pension. When you talk dollars and cents,
Mm-hmm.
when you talk dollars and cents, that is what propelled people to vote for you. We can go back to 1995.
Mm-hmm.
When the leader in 1995 talked dollars and cents, we are going to remove the personal income tax and you will get more money in your pocket. That meant a lot to the people.
Mm-hmm.
When he said he will pay in 1995 bi-monthly, and that will put more buying power and more money into your pocket,
Right.
that meant a lot. So similarly, now, last year, sorry, by the new leader promising to pay the pension has been a major factor for the win.
What
As
what
a matter of fact, the election changed course about 3, 4 weeks before the date.
yeah, but Dr. Keith Mitchell being such a strong political figure, understanding the dynamics of Grenadian politics. We spoke about from where he came, understanding this so well. How, why do you think that that was such a massive oversight on his part, or why did he make such a big mistake?
See, look, Dr. Mitchell, all his life, have been calling the shots for everything that happens around. You know, I've been there with him twice. If he decides to do something, don't care what you say, he will not do it. He will not. As far as he's concerned, he's the brightest man around. He knows what to say, he knows what to do, and you can give him all the advice. He will not take it. But of course, if you build a cultural habit all your life and you have been winning, who is me and you to come and tell him something? He has been successful in winning. And that success in winning is what propel him to do what he wants to do and when he wants to do it. To come and tell him do differently, you'll be out of place. Now, your question is if somebody has an open mind and if that person is willing to leave, to listen to my team of soldiers and understand that we are all equal as parliamentarians,
Mhm.
and let's work as a team and listen to the ideas of them. He wouldn't have lost. But as far as he's concerned, he's correct in everything he did. And when you behave like that, then people then mistrust you. I remember with the pension, when he came and he had this thing in the trade center, and he put in place a committee, a pension committee. The pension committee reported to him all what they tell him to do, he never do. He never did. So he will put committees in place. It is just a show. It's not really to get results. He will have a team of ministers around him. But it's just to use them to do what he wants to do. It's not about a good team effort for development. And I hope I answer your question. How did he make that mistake?
Yeah. A lot of people said that the campaign slogan and the campaign itself, the one for the road, was a mistake in its own because it kind of focused the whole attention around him. We had it with a 12% swing. The focus of it was around him, and he lost a lot of those seats because it wasn't a vote necessarily towards the NDC, as some people said. There was more a vote against the NNP. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's correct. I think it was a vote against, not the NNP. I think it was a vote against the league. And when he brought the campaign down, like you said, give me one for the road. And I heard him one time saying, give me the thing now. I want the thing. Give me the thing. One for the road. He was bringing the campaign down to the lowest level, you know? And that annoyed a lot of people. And then that also tell people, you know what happened? He losing. He start to beg. He was begging. And once you start bringing it to that level and you're begging, people then read between the lines. So he threw it away himself.
Mhm. Was Delma Thomas right? She made a number of utterances in regards to how thing was happening, and her then decision to move to the NDC. Was she from your perspective, was she right to come out the way that she did and speak out against her leader the way that she did?
I think she did it. I think she made the right. Um, Remember, these people have been around the leader for a long time, and all of them are genuinely supportive of him. Of course, they also know the weakness. They also fall victim where he dictates everything to everyone. I remember maybe 2.5 years ago when I wrote a story giving the leader some advice what to do. It was a Facebook story. And many NNPIs,
Mm-hmm.
they would call me and say, "Boy, you're brave to do that, yes, but I think you're right. What you're saying is correct." Many of them. But they can't tell him that. I said it. And I really gave him genuine ideas on how he can turn the party around. If he had taken my ideas, he would have won the election. He didn't take them. So I think Delma feel hurt. You have lost the election. You're analyzing why you lost the election. So you're looking for genuine comment. If she happened to make a comment or two that you probably don't like, you don't have to get hostile to her. But he got very hostile to her because he made comments that he's not happy with. And then, as she said, some of the close people were saying things against her
Mm-hmm.
that she didn't expect them to be saying. Like she said, there were personal things between the two of them. And if these guys are saying it, it means that he's telling them what to say. So I think she really had enough. And I think she made the right move. And I support her for that. But I tell you something. The best thing that has happened to the politics in Grenada right now,
Mm-hmm.
Delman Thomas resigning from the NNP
Hmm.
and going into the NDC.
You say that's the
And
best thing. You say that's the best thing. Yeah.
added to that,
Yeah. Yeah. You said
I
that's the.
think I think it now leaves the NNP to salvage what they have and build back their party. So in other words, all the back and forth, all the fighting back and forth while Delma was there. The onus is on the NNP leadership now to get their act together. Because I want to see democracy in Grenada country. I want to see the two parties be strong. Because that is how you would maintain democracy in your country.
Yes.
So I need to see two strong parties in Grenada. So the best thing has happened. She gone. The others must realize, look, she's no longer there for us to be fighting her. Let's get our act together, consolidate the party, move to a convention, and elect a leader. If you want to elect your same leader, go ahead. But have a convention.
Yes.
I believe they should have a convention. The nonsense of, oh, you're organizing and you're organizing, that's nonsense. They know what to do. Have a convention. If Dr. Michel believes he wants to run again, go up and do it. Let democracy prevail within the party and outside the party. So I
Mm.
think the best move have just been made, like I said before.
Yeah. You had a you are you have a broad understanding of this both sides of the politics because you've been on both sides. So let me ask you this question: what is Dr. Keith Mitchell's feeling about Peter David as being leadership? And if not Peter David, then who?
And somehow, from what I'm hearing, that he doesn't want Peter David to become the leader. Of course, within the party, and I speak to a lot of NNPIs, Peter David is favored as being the next leader. But of course, I believe it's not that he don't like Peter. I believe he wants to continue leading the party.
Mm.
That is the leader's position. I must remain as the leader. And he will fight Peter David because Peter David is being seen as the best prominent person to lead the party. So all the talk about somebody from outside must come and lead, it is utter nonsense. Nonsense. I think if people want to lead, they need to come into the party and choose a leader from within. You know, and you have people within who are capable. But if he wants to handpick somebody and bring them in, that is not very good.
Mhm. Yeah. Interesting perspectives on all of this thing. Yeah, I know we have about 5 more minutes. If you could spare us some more of your time. Does Peter David, is Peter David getting that message? Do you think Peter is contemplating? Do you think Peter is even, thinking now that he could be leader or pushing towards it? Because he did make mention that he would like to be if they call a convention. Do you think Peter now is contemplating otherwise outside of the NNP?
I don't think so. I think Peter is in the NNP, and I don't think he has any way to go. I don't think he's contemplating anything differently. I think this is what I picked up. Whatever he has said before, that if there is a convention, he will make himself available, because the present leader already said that he is not continuing. And I think Peter is right, quite right. If you want to, you believe you have a role to play as leader of the NNP, then go for it. Don't be afraid. Put yourself in position and go for it when the right time comes. But of course, all the problem with they're not ready for convention yet is utter nonsense.
Mm, interesting perspective. And finally, what role now does Delma Thomas play in the NDC now that she announced that she won't even be in cabinet? What role do you think that she could play going forward?
But sometimes people go slowly. I think she's doing something right now. I'm told, you know, which sometimes you need a little breathing space that you don't jump from one to the next too quick. So I guess that is what she's thinking. That she's playing a role for her constituency, and whatever they give her to do, she will do it. But by uh, that
Yeah,
as time goes by, I believe she will certainly get herself more involved,
yeah, yeah.
and she should.
Well, listen,
There's no reason why she should.
she should.
Yeah.
And are you surprised that she didn't negotiate to be in cabinet?
Well, maybe she's taking a slow pace at doing things, which is good. See, sometimes you could play a good role outside a cabinet even better. And sometimes you take one step at a time and you don't jump from one to the next too quick.
Right.
So maybe she's doing it right, marching slowly.
Yes, yes, yes. Listen, Mr. Lal Singh, we could chat all day because it's great history. And I think it's important that people know the history of politics in Grenada because the same thing that you said that was happening back then it's happening now. Nothing really changed. The more things change, the more it remains the same. It's the same thing that we're seeing now. It's just a revolving door all over again. So we thank you for putting the politics into perspective here for us. Now, final. What's pissing you off? What's on your mind? What's pissing you off right now? Because that's Thursday. What's pissing you off?
Nothing really. I just keep myself focused. I develop in my business,
Yes.
and of course, I watch what's going on, and I would share my opinion. Nothing pisses me off, man. I'm enjoying life. I'm
Okay.
enjoying life. Well, I've always enjoyed life. Don't care where you put me. I enjoy life. Even when I was in detention in Richmond Hill,
Uh-huh.
when a lot of guys thought I would have been crying, I was enjoying myself.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
So wherever I go, I enjoy life. I face problems. I deal with my problems and move on.
Nice. Thank you so much, Mr. Kenny Lalsingh, for chatting with us with this very important historical view of politics in Grenada. Thanks again, my brother. Any last word before we wrap up?
Thank you. Thank you. And I think we have said enough. I mean, it's always a pleasure. It's a pleasure to chat with you and your listeners. And I do hope that whatever I've said, that did not offend anyone. I do hope whatever I've said is bringing a clearer picture. And anyone can feel free to question me or comment or disagree. I have no problem. So they can reach out to me. Anyone who believe what I've said is not correct, or you want to further discuss anything, I'm always willing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, Mr.
Thank
Lalsingh,
you
very
also.
much. All right. Guys, yeah, that was an important conversation. Important conversation with Kenny Lalsingh, former MP. Yeah. Let's take a quick commercial break, guys. We'll be right back. You're watching Right Along Live. I got some closing remarks. Don't move. We'll be back.
The NLA is giving you more chances to multiply your Playway winnings by adding Multi-X to your regular Playway bets to win up to 5 times more. Imagine winning as much as $1,200 instead of $240 with a $10 Playway bet by simply adding Multi-X. Place your Playway bets from $1 to $10 or in increments on your favorite Playway symbols or numbers. Then add the Multi-X option at the same value to win 2 times, 3 times, 5 times more, or free plays. With Multi-X, you must bet the same amount wagered on your regular Playway bets for your winnings to be multiplied. Grenadians, value your dreams and win your way as much as 5 times more with Multi-X added to Playway and watch your money grow. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your
Grenadians and Friends of Grenada, the National Democratic Congress Support Group Canada cordially invites you to a gala event with the Prime Minister of Grenada, Carriacou and Piti Martinique, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell, Saturday, July 1st at Bellevue Manor, 8083 Jane Street in Concord, Ontario, with cocktails from 6 p.m. and dinner at 7:30, featuring live entertainment, delegation speakers, and more. Ticket donation is $250. Proceeds go to the establishment of a party resource center in Grenada. Tickets are limited. The Honorable Deacon Mitchell, Saturday, July 1st at Bellevue Manor, 8083 Jane Street in Concord. For tickets and information, please call 647-859-4142 or 647-242-9256.
Yeah. All right, guys. So here's what's pissing me off. Guys. Right? First of all, I saw someone made a comment earlier in reference to, it's only certain set of people I just have on the program. I want to reiterate this. I've always said this from day one. I will speak to anybody that was willing to speak to me, right? I have an open door policy right here and Right Along Live. I have an open door policy on this platform. I will speak to anyone that will speak to me. All right. So if anyone in the opposition side would like to speak and talk about, their life, right along life, every one of us story to tell, I was more than willing and happy to have this conversation. And not like we didn't. I mean, we had multiple conversations with Dr. Keaty being on the program before. We had, Minister of Tourism back then. We had Clarice Modest Cohen. We had Emmeline Pear being on the program. I mean, you name it. We had them all. And we want to have more conversations like these because, I firmly believe that no matter what political side you sit on, at the end of the day, you love Grenada. You love this rock. You may just have a different idea. And as Kenny Lalsingh said, the ideology, the difference of party is not very different. It's not very much different. I think where they are more of a fighting amongst the supporters, more than the leaders and the people in position. Because oftentimes you see the leaders and the ministers and them, you may see them in parliament and you say, yo, it's rival, it's fighting. But no, you look and you see they're having a beer in the shop. Yeah? But the supporters, they're fighting, they're keeping enemy. I know a lot of people who just, they're so engulfed in the politics, guys. They're cussing you out and they don't want to have nothing to do with you. It makes no sense. At the end of the day, all of these people love Grenada. They want to get to the same place. Some might just have a different way of going there, of getting there. But I'm going to echo the sentiments of Andy. I think Honorable Andy Williams said it on the program before. Don't play stupid and make enemies out of politics, or make politics make enemies of your friends and your family, your close loved ones, your loved ones. That is just stupid talk, right? Don't make permanent enemies for temporary situation, right? Stop it. Stop that. Anyway, guys, thank you for being a part of our program here today and this conversation. It was definitely a good history lesson for a lot of people, understanding the dynamics of politics. And this politics that he spoke about, replica, you take it and you copy and paste, is the same thing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Almost the same. Almost the same thing happening in Dominica. Caribbean politics. This is how it is. This is how it is. Nothing different. So that's why people from St. Vincent and the Grenadines would watch right along and be like, yeah, that's the same thing happening where we are. That's the same thing happening in St. Lucia, same thing happening in Dominica. Copy and paste. And yeah, so Adi, Fabio, Sam, yes, history is important. Absolutely important. Guys, don't forget, if you have a business and you want to advertise, this is where you do it right here, right along live. Let me tell you about the 4th annual Miss Caribbean USA Summer Body Pageant. That's happening on the 25th. I hope you guys got your tickets already. If you haven't got your ticket as yet, you better get it now, because ticket price just went up. $60. Come and see some of the best, the boldest and best from the Caribbean as they represent for their country in the Miss Caribbean USA Beauty Pageant. Miss Caribbean USA Summer Body Pageant. Live performance by DeVille, Keisha Martin, and the Hitman Inspector. Don't miss it.
When your choice, class, and taste says luxury, visit JTS Luxury Home. With our spring into summer sale, all overstocked items must go. We stock a wide assortment of modern furniture, bedding, and home decor. The sale runs into midsummer or while stocks last. JTS Luxury Home, 467 Thomas Boylan Street, between Pitkin and East New York Avenue in Brooklyn, where opulence meets affordability.
Also, guys, don't forget the Riders Big Money Bingo. Riders Big Money Bingo, $1,500 US bingo. And that's going on the 24th of June. Yeah, 24th of June. Get your tickets right now, guys, at ridebuy.com. That's ridebuy.com. Listen, All you're playing Monday Night Mass, you're going Grenada for Carnival. If you're going Grenada for Carnival, you got to be a part of this amazing band. It's called Amazing Colors. It is so amazing. Click that link right there, guys, and get your packages for Amazing Colors. Not only they have the best Monday night packages, but they also have the Jab band. Jab. Yeah. And all kind of nice, sexy outfit in the Jab band, eh? Can't afford to miss it, guys. Monday Night Mass with Amazing Colors and Jab in Color. Get your packages now.
The Miss Caribbean USA Summer Body Pageant Committee invites you and yours to New York's hottest summer fashion event. It's the Miss Caribbean USA Summer Body Pageant 2023. One night, one spacious and gorgeous location, 6 nations. Miss Grenada, Miss Panama, Miss Haiti, Miss Dominican Republic, Miss Guyana, and Miss Jamaica. Get your $40 early bird tickets on or before May 8th at eventbrite.com. Advance tickets cost $50 or you pay more at the door. Elegance, intelligence, poise, and beauty unbound. And performing live from Jamaica, DeVille.
I'm thinking about you.
Passionately memorable, DeVille.
Baby, I'm sorry for praying.
Along with New York's finest, including the Hitman, Inspector. Dose of Nut 4 p.m., showtime 6 p.m. Be seated early at the J-Loft, 1055 East 45th Street, Brooklyn, New York. For more info, contact 754-301-1230 or email summerbodyinfo@gmail.com. Miss Caribbean USA Summer Body Pageant 2023, Sunday, 25th June. It's going to be epic.
Wine the Caribbean girl.
The NLA is giving you more chances to multiply your Playway winnings by adding Multi-X to your regular Playway bets to win up to 5 times more. Imagine winning as much as $1,200 instead of $240 with a $10 Playway bet by simply adding Multi-X. Place your Playway bets from $1 to $10 or in increments on your favorite Playway symbols or numbers. Then add the Multi-X option at the same value to win 2 times, 3 times, 5 times more, or free plays. With Multi-X, you must bet the same amount wagered on your regular Playway bets for your winnings to be multiplied. Grenadians, value your dreams and win your way as much as 5 times more with Multi-X added to Playway and watch your money grow. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
The best time I have for Spice Mass is plain mass with amazing colors. I love amazing colors. Always spectacular. Always amazing. Always amazing.
Once again, guys, thank you for being a part of our program today. On behalf of all of our production crew here at Team Ride Along, like JJ, our senior executive producer, of course, our moderators, Gail, Kibbs, Tian, how you doing? Big up yourself. Hey, big up to Captain Harris. How you doing, my friend? Big up Captain Harris, Rockin' J, and everyone checking us out. Far, near and far. Catch you guys again tomorrow. Tomorrow, right? Trivia. No drama on a Friday. Hoping to see you guys there. Good night.